As a staunch Seeker main in Risk of Rain 2, I think Seeker is a character that scratches an itch that I don't think any other character can. And by itch, I mean playing as an AC 130 with one hand and jerking off with the other. Anyways, you came here to listen to me break this character down, not yap, so let's get into it. Inner Spirit is your passive. It allows you to get stronger with each stack of Tranquility. It can go to, I think, 15%, but it might be 7. I might be wrong. I don't know. Don't quote me. Your Spirit Punch, which is your basic M1. It is a combo of 3 moves. You won't really be using this very much, especially if you're using lunar items, but it's decent damage for the early game, and it can get much stronger if you have enough stack of Tranquility. Unseen Hand is your first M2. You use a small circle that gives you the ability to fire fist upward that deals 600% damage and heals you for 3% of the damage dealt, which you gain plus 4% healing per stack of Tranquility. Soul Spiral, which is your second M2, you summon an orb that rotates around you, dealing 150% damage for each hit. You can summon up to 6 of these orbs using the ability after you've hit the cap of 6. We'll just speed up the orbs, allowing them to hit more often. Each orb will last for 11 hits, plus 2 per stack of Tranquility you have. You will also gain some shield on hit. This can be increased with the amount of Tranquility you have, up to 10% healing. For your first shift, you gain is called Sojourn. You gain the ability to fly and complete immunity to all damage. As a trade-off, you lose 25% of your HP per second, and your healing is lowered by 10% per second until you're only healing 1 HP. The longer you stay in Sojourn, the more damage you do until it's possible to deal even 500,000% damage pretty easily with it. The size of the explosion is also increased by the time spent in Sojourn and stacks with Tranquility. For your second shift, Reprieve, using this ability, you get 20% of your health as a shield. The shield will decrease until it runs out or you run into a surface or enemy. This is a lot faster alternative to Sojourn and summons a massive tornado that sucks enemies in. The shield can be increased while inside Reprieve while using Soul Spiral to increase the duration of this move. And it can be used to skip Phase 4 Mithrix if you use it right before it becomes vulnerable, which is a really cool upside. Meditate gives you a little Dance Dance Revolution rhythm game, heals you for 25% of your max HP, and damages enemies around you, and gives a stack of Tranquility. Only if you succeed in the Dance Dance Revolution game, of course. Once you succeed, you'll release an explosion that does 300% damage and gets larger, and does 200% more damage for each stack of Tranquility. Upon giving the 7th stack of Tranquility, you'll get a new golden kind known as Saving Grace. This is a one-time revive that is also given to all of your teammates in multiplayer. The other R special is known as Palm Blast. Palm Blast lets you charge up a palm that fires out doing 400 to 700% damage depending on your stack of Tranquility. If you multi-hit 3 targets, you will gain a stack of Tranquility and it will heal you. You do not get a gold stack upon reaching 7 stacks though, and upon hitting a boss with a Palm Blast, it'll act like you've hit 3 enemies and give you a stack of Tranquility. Okay, we have first we have a couple options here that we need to choose between for what I believe is the strongest build. First of all, we have Soul Spiral versus Unseen Hand for the M2 slot. Soul Spiral definitely allows for more short-range DPS. It will almost always out DPS Unseen Hand while it's being used to hit a boss. But it can also be used to allow you to negate fall damage if you use it right before you hit the ground. This ability heavily synergizes with Sojourn and Reprieve, as it gives you a safe way to utilize the orbs without putting yourself in a position where you can get one-shotted by a boss. It also increases the duration those abilities have. The shield, however, is also one of the strongest abilities a character can have. At max Tranquility, you get the 10% of your max health as temporary shield per hit, which is a lot. That's a lot of shield. This shield is just overall a really good bonus for the ability. In contrast, Unseen Hand is a longer ranged, lower DPS option that lets you almost always have a way to heal yourself, even if Meditate or Palm Blast is on cooldown. You can certainly make a build around healing, but due to the decreases in healing that Eclipse difficulties offer, it becomes less viable the higher you get up there. So you're going to start to struggle a lot because of the healing uprising become much less valuable as the Eclipse levels go up. In my opinion, Soul Spiral is what I choose most of the time. Its synergy with Soldier is just so strong, and because Seeker typically lacks damage, having having a one like high damage option really lets her keep up with other survivors and be a useful help to her team. Next up, it's Sojourn versus Reprieve. Sojourn is an ability that grants the ability of flight and it gives you invulnerability. It has an explosion that does a ton of damage at the end. As a trade-off, we all know that it does self-damage to the user and reduces the healing they have over time. This ability is typically used as their biggest crutch, so to speak. It will almost always be used and be trying to kind of just being spammed as much as possible. It's used as mobility and a boss killer, and the synergy with Soul Spiral and other items that I'll go into later heavily make it one of the most overpowered abilities, if not the strongest ability in the game. Reprieve, by contrast, is almost exclusively a movement ability. The shield it grants allows for you not to have to worry about taking a ton of damage while traversing the map. And the tornado it spawns sucks up enemies and allows for something like Palm Blast to get its stacks of tranquility up. And also allows for Unseen Hand to get a massive spike in healing. I understand that some people almost exclusively use Reprieve, but I think the absolute safety of Sojourn and the increased damage is a worthy sacrifice for the mobility you're giving up by not taking Reprieve. Finally, we have Palm Blast versus Meditate. Meditate is a very basic move, and that's all it needs to be. It allows for consistent healing and a nice AoE damage bonus. It also has a proc coefficient of 1 that allows for you to hit procs on basically every enemy around you. The Saving Grace or Gold Tranquility stack is exclusive to this move, allowing for a riskier playstyle, because if you die, you can always come back to life. Palm Blast, on the other hand, is a rather inconsistent option. To gain a stack of Tranquility, you have to multi-hit 3 enemies or hit a boss with the ability. The ability, while it does more damage, can be used to decent success with something like Reprieve, but it requires you to be in combat with a large crowd of enemies with 0 stacks of Tranquility at the start of the level to acquire those Tranquility stacks to begin with. I think Meditate is almost always the more consistent of the two options. It allows you to get your stacks of Tranquility before engaging large groups of enemies, which is something you should want to be doing almost every time with Seeker, as it is her main gimmick. Anyways, the choices I've made are inherently subjective, and if you want to play with the off-meta options, I'll definitely go over that later. But for now, the best build Seeker can have is Soul Spiral, Sojourn, and Meditate. Seeker's abilities, much like her items, are inherently about making Sojourn more powerful. Meditate allows you to heal without risk to yourself, which can help with early on when you don't have a way to reducing the self-damage Sojourn gives. Soul Spiral also helps increase the damage of Sojourn with the balls rotating around you as you fly around. It's pretty simple what you want to be doing with your abilities. Build up stacks with Tranquility, get your Saving Grace, meditate as much as possible, and always have Sojourn active without taking too much damage to yourself. Items that are good on Seeker are basically just items that are good for Sojourn, but there is a little bit more nuance to it. The best way to really increase the effectivity or the effectiveness of Sojourn is just items that reduce the damage it deals, like Armor Repulsion Plate and Rose Buckler. These just lower the amount of damage Sojourn does to you, and in turn makes so you can stay in it longer, getting the most of the invincibility and damage. That is the most common way to do it, but I think there is a more effective way, and I think that item is Transcendence. Transcendence is a lunar item that gives your base health, sets your base health to 1, and it gives you all of your health plus 50% in shield. It has a really funny way of working with Sojourn, because basically Sojourn does percent damage, and since you only have 1 damage, 10% of 1 is still just 1. This allows for your shield to just then tank all of the damage, because you're going to have like 1,000 health in shield. And it just lets you be basically For the next energy I think you should always be looking out for is Razor Wire. Basically all Razor Wire does for this build is let you just start dealing free damage for every tick Sojourn does. Razor Wire is an item that shoots out, I think, 10 razors every time you take damage. This doesn't sound too crazy, but considering it is quite literally free damage that you get while completely invulnerable, and this damage has a proc coefficient of 0.5, which allows you to proc abilities and other things like HEG missiles with no risk to yourself, while also dealing damage with Soul Spiral, it basically lets you become a fighter jet that instantly kills any enemy from across the map. And finally, the last item in the Holy Trinity for Seeker is a Plasma Shrimp. Because Razor Wire only has a 0.5 proc coefficient, but hits very fast, the Plasma Shrimp is literally perfect for letting you deal more damage. Because it has a guaranteed chance of firing, no matter the proc coefficient of anything, and you will always be having shield, because you always have Transcendence, it basically gives you a guaranteed proc coefficient for everything. This isn't necessary for this build. You can absolutely still just do this with the Razor Wire, or you can do it without Razor Wire, but it is these 3 items that I think really just put together a really powerful build. If you're one of those people that is truly against using Lunars, definitely make sure to pick up Rose Bucklers and Armor Repulsion Plates, because these flat damage reductions can help mitigate the damage that Sojourn will do to you. Healing can also increase your uptime in Sojourn, but it's not as effective as just damage repulsion, because the longer you're in your Sojourn form, the less your healing will do to stop you from being able to be in forever, which is very easily, avoidable, as I've demonstrated. If you're dead set on using the alternate abilities, they are absolutely usable, but they will be overall less effective. These abilities are Palm Blast, Reprieve, and Unseen Hand. They are much safer choices than the build I would typically recommend, mainly because that's just how I like to play. But they allow for you to play as kind of an AoE support character. I wouldn't recommend this style of play for single player because of the loss of the extra life. You end up being less effective at support. But with supporting orange items like Primordial Cube, you can use to clump enemies together and splash them down with your build almost entirely that's made up of AoE moves, is an effective strategy. This build is also much less reliant on items. It will be effective even on the first stage as long as you're using your Reprieve to group up enemies to get your stacks of Tranquility. There isn't really anything you should be specifically going for that you shouldn't on other characters. You can kind of skimp on movement speed items because Reprieve is by far the fastest, and in my opinion, best mobility item in the game. But other than that, just grab damage items, sustainability items like Safer Spaces, etc. This build is probably better for runs when you're going to fight False Sun, considering the importance of getting away from the False Sun. Reprieve is a very useful solution for that. Also, your lower reliance on items helps if you don't loot before the False Sun fight, because, let's be honest, when you're fighting False Sun, it's a mixed bag of what you're going to be working with. It's never going to be like a perfect fight. And this build, while it is still affected by that, it doesn't have to have that like, oh my god, I need this item, or all of my abilities are like 10 times weaker. If you get like, it doesn't really matter if you get 2 crit classes or 3 glitch classes. It doesn't really matter. Like, you're still going to be doing about the same amount of damage. Maybe like 10% more, but nothing crazy. Regardless of whatever build you choose, I think Seeker is a really fun experience to play. She has some of the strongest abilities in the game and provides an experience that you can't really get with any other character. I would be going into more detail on some of her abilities. I had a whole section about small tips and tricks you can use. But if I'm being honest, it was really boring. You'll look up a video by someone that's good at this game if you really want to get into like the nitty-gritty on like how exactly you should be playing her. But honestly, I think you should go out there and you just experiment, see what does more damage, etc. Anyways, like and subscribe, please. I'm a very small YouTuber, if you can't tell. I mean, I'm a fucking high school kid. Yeah, I don't post very often. I think my last post was 2 months ago at the time of recording this. So, it's been a minute, but, I might make more videos. I won't flood up your inbox. But I do really enjoy this, so we'll see where it goes. Even though my work ethic is, yeesh, I'll be real with you, this video did not take 2 months, it took like a month. And that's because I procrastinated. But it's gonna be, it's good, we're chilling. Videos would come out more like winter break and stuff around that time. I'll probably get more winter, videos out. I think the next one is gonna be on like a Rain World. I have done a video on Rain World before, but I got really bored at editing it, and I kind of just threw a 20-minute long clip in it and called it a day. Probably gonna take that video down, actually. That was really bad. But, yeah, like and subscribe. Hell, you can be sub 100 subscriber gang. That's what we'll call it. So yeah, that would really help me out. Thank you for watching. Adios.